Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Story Study Saturday. I'm Sammi, and I'm a writer who likes to learn about writing through reading and share what I learn with you. So this week, I actually have a physical copy of the book. Who is she? This week, I'm going to talk to you about Paper Towns by John Green. The reason why I have this book is literally because it was $3 at Half Price Books. I would not have had any reason to pick up a copy of this book, let alone a physical copy, were it not for that $3 price tag. The reason I feel that way is because I tried a couple of times to read An Abundance of Katherines by John Green, and it never worked out. Like, I hated the main character. I hated the concept. I hated it. I hated how it was written. I was like, I do not like this book. And I think it was probably the first book that I actively tried to read more than once growing up, because it was a YA book when I was a YA that I was drastically avoiding reading. And Paper Towns was one of my summer reading book options. And I was the nerd who read every single one of the summer reading book options that were available to me at the library because I liked somebody to tell me what to read. I still do. I love recommendations. If you have any book recommendations, let me know in the comments because I will probably end up reading it. I did not come into Paper Towns with a lot of high hopes for John Green, and nor did I leave with very many high hopes about John Green as an author. So let's talk about my thoughts on this book. I think the characters are interesting. They are unique enough from what I have read that they seem like individual people. That will come back later. I think that the puzzle to solve was also fun in its own way. It was a very unique way for a puzzle to be made out in a way that the normal way of solving a puzzle was not the way to solve this puzzle. So I appreciated that uniqueness of the story. I really like the use of outside literature to create meaning within the story because I feel like it's not used as often as I want it to be, because it's really a nice way to just learn about other literature that you might not have heard of. Like the poem in this, The Song of Myself, I honestly would never have heard of without it. So the use of outside literature, I am now realizing that that may not be a real poem. It is a real poem. The poem used in the story Song of Myself, I never would have known was a real thing without this story and my sudden urge to Google if it were real or not, because I just made the assumption that it was. It is real, and I appreciate the use of real literature, external literature within the literature of this world. For a vast majority of the story, it felt like the characters were really connected to reality and that time was passing in a really believable way, and the existence of the outside puzzle was a factor that weighed on Q in a way that made sense for how his life was going. Like the way that I remember feeling my senior year of high school, if something like this were to have happened, I probably would have had the same time management situation that he had, and I appreciated that. It made the world and the characters feel more real and genuine than maybe they would have otherwise without that connection of time and space and plot. There have been several stories that I've even talked about on this channel that haven't really had the opportunity to let the situations feel like they are something that could happen in the real world, because everything that happens in the story is in service to the plot and we don't get that real world time frame kind of feeling. In real life, there are things that don't matter that just sort of happen, and while that's not important in books, I feel like sprinkling them in on occasion can help make the situation feel more realistic and genuine, which I think Paper Towns did a really good job of doing. In terms of things that I think could be improved, I thought the ending was trash. I do not think we got the right amount of payoff from the end of the story that we were building up to. I think it was a letdown by far. And to tie into that, the ending felt like it was rushed and it was like the last, I'm sure it probably was the last thing that was done, but it felt like it was done as a way to I'm done. I am done writing. A lot of that comes from this disconnect from time, that the whole book had such a firm grasp on time passing that the ending, the last couple dozen pages were like, okay, how long is this happening for? And then it's sped up, and then it slowed down, and then it sped up, and then it slowed down. And because of all of that, it read more as a dream than it did as a part of the rest of the story that was so well connected that I didn't even, like, the story didn't end for me, because that could have been a dream. And even if it did end like that, it didn't end. That's my opinion on that situation. I also was not a big fan of Margot, not because of who Margot was as a character, but because of the, like, she's not like other girls energy that was so forcibly put on her. And I understand. I get it. I know why it was from Q's narrative, but when Margot herself points it out that she's not like other girls, I honestly got so disinterested, and then the ending came. So I just finished because I was like, well, and I guess I'm sure that there have been in the history of time girls who have done that, who have been the one who is not like other girls and proud of it. And even though they don't necessarily embody it the way that they want to or whatever, like, they still try. I'm sure that they exist, but I don't want them to, because it's just, like, so sad. Just be yourself. But I guess I just don't like it. It's entirely just personal preference at this point, I guess. I just don't like it. Now, I will say I have not read any of John Green's other books. And a lot of times, if I don't feel passionately about a book when I finish it, like, I don't really feel passionately about Paper Towns. I don't feel glad that I read it. I don't feel upset that I read it. I just sort of read it. And I spent the time reading it, and that's what it is. It is what it is. That's where I'm at. It was like a solid 2.5 stars, 3 stars maybe. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I'm neutral. I'm so neutral on it. And to make sure that I had enough padding to feel like I was actually going to say something worth your time in this video, I looked through some comments on and like reviews on this book on Goodreads. So, like, I'll read like 3 5-star reviews and 3 1-star reviews just to randomly even out my general world understanding of this book. And I saw in a 5-star comment, as well as all 3 1-star comments that I read. So that's 4 out of 6. That's a majority. That this book has the same character archetypes as his other books that were out around the same time, as in An Abundance of Katherines, and I believe another one was Looking for Alaska that was brought up, and The Fault in Our Stars was also brought up in one of those comments as having the same characters in all of those books. So, given the fact that I have not read any other John Green books, nor do I really plan to unless I get another one for under $5, I don't plan on seeking them out. So, if that is the case, and these characters are the same archetypes as other characters of other stories that he has written, that's something that could be improved and probably should be. You shouldn't be using noticeable character tropes and archetypes in all of your stories. Every story should be about different people in different situations with different things molding them. So if that is actually the case, then that would be something that I would say would be able to be improved, and I am literally just going off of the word of 4 people on the internet. So if that's not the case, let me know in the comments down below. So what can we learn from Paper Towns by John Green? We can definitely learn for a vast majority of the book, like a solid 90% of the book, you can learn about connecting your characters to the real world and associating time passing with important things that are going on outside of the general plot that are important to your character. I think the story does that really, really well. And in that, you can learn about passing time on short-term and long-term sections, where in this book, there are sections where he is watching the clock in math class, and then there are sections where weeks have gone by and we still feel like that time has passed, even though we didn't witness that time passing. So I think he does a really good job of showing time passing in general. This can also be a pretty good example of building a puzzle. I do think that it's okay in comparison to some other stories that have puzzles in them. Particularly the Inheritance games does a lot better job, in my opinion, of building a puzzle, but it has that disconnect of time and plot So there's that. If you're really interested in that connection of time and reality to your story, then I would say this is probably a better example of developing that kind of puzzle, clue, scavenger hunt thing. But that is all I have for you today. I wish I felt strongly about this book, but I feel very strongly neutral on it. Like I don't care. Honestly, the thing I'm just trying to decide is whether or not I want to keep the book, because I'm trying to curate a bookshelf that will exclusively be my like 5-star reads or books that I've taken notes in. And I did not take any notes in this book because it's fiction and I only really take notes in the nonfiction books. So I don't know, but tell me what you think if you've read Paper Towns. What were your opinions on the characters? If you've read any of John Green's other books, does this book have the same characters? Please let me know, because there's no part of me that's interested in reading any of the other stories he's written, and that's on me mostly. But if you like this video, please leave a like. It'll really help me out and show YouTube that maybe more people would also like this video. I post new videos every Tuesday and Saturday for Writing Tip Tuesdays and Story Study Saturdays. So if you don't want to miss any of those, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. And I we'll see you guys back here for Writing Tip Tuesday.